We have spent 20 years overcoming the security as the Department of No to a point where security is becoming the department that enables the business to operate securely and with lower risk. And we've spent 20 years and we've thrown all of that out where security is becoming back to the Department of No, where it's no, you can't use that. No, you can't use that. We need to get back to the space where, as security professionals, we are talking about this in a how do we, our clients, our internal users, they are going to be using AI. They are going to be using these tools. How do we help them do that in the lowest risk way possible?
Good afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you guys are listening to this today. This is Humanize IT, and today we've got a very great set of guests here with Michael and Jared from Blacksmith InfoSec. And we're going to talk a little about what the future is for vibe coding and AI, as well as how this is going to impact our industry from a security perspective. So, Jared and Michael, give me a little bit of background on who you guys are and what you're bringing to this industry.
Yeah. My background is more the traditional IT cybersecurity. I've VSISO'd for a number of years. And so really what I'm bringing to the industry today is how to create security programs at SMBs in a intelligent way versus just trying to implement like an enterprise grade security program with all the enterprise funding at a 20-person organization.
Yeah, and my background, so I've spent 25 years now developing software and mostly in secure spaces, and the last 15 years before starting Blacksmith as a CTO of either health tech or fintech companies in Silicon Valley. And so it's just, we're in this really cool space right now, Adam, and you and I have had a lot of conversations about vibe coding and AI and the future of software development. And so I'm excited to kind of pick up some of the pieces and threads that you and I have talked about one-on-one. But, just bringing in some of that background of how to build secure software in a way that a lot of the channel doesn't understand, and really how to apply some of those lessons from software development into how to manage an IT shop and improve security, not just for internally for the MSP, but also for their clients.
Yeah, and so let's dive right into this. I think there's some interesting things going on right now. The adoption of AI is accelerating intensely, which is why we've been covering AI, the use of AI in our Humanize IT podcast here over the last basically 3 months. We've had quite a few conversations here. And the reason why is because we're seeing the adoption of this hit all the small businesses. Everybody is using AI in some way or another, and it's evolving at a pace that it's insane. So one of the things I discovered probably, wow, what's it been like now? 5 weeks now, 6 weeks now, is vibe coding. And I remember people talking about it earlier this year, and I thought, it's just a little bit of a fad. It's kind of something that's just another tool that's out there. But as I started looking at it from a computer science perspective, from an architecture perspective, I thought, holy crap, this is as impactful to the internet as Web 2.0 was. When people first started making web apps where it had logic, had SQL engines behind it, where you could like shop online, where you could run applications online that helped you do things rather than just browse through a bunch of windows. That was hugely impactful from two standpoints. One, of things I could do that were really cool on the web, and two, the number of things I had to clean up as a security admin. Anybody remember Code Red? Am I the only one left alive who remembers Code Red? I think we're due for that. And I kind of asking myself, how do we avoid it?
Yeah, Mike, go.
Yeah.
I see the wheels are turning.
No, there's just a lot to unpack, and there's lots of aspects of security and vibe coding that need to be addressed, right? If you look at just the different layers that go into it, right? You want to make sure the code is secure. You want to make sure that, like, as AI is developing the code, it's using security best practices. Then you want to make sure that the database is secure or make sure data is encrypted. You want to be able to tell if you're using something like Replit or anything else, like where's that data being stored? Is it being stored in the US, outside the US? Like what's going on with the data and who possibly has access to it on the back end? And then there's the general security best practices of how do you make something secure from an operational standpoint, right? What's the process and how do you secure that? So I've actually been playing around with my own little app, trying to build like a family tree app because all the ones out there, I don't necessarily want to give them all my family information. And again, just the whole process of how do you invite someone and make sure that not everyone can just log in and see all the information, make sure there's approval process for someone that creates an account, right? A lot of the stuff people don't necessarily think about as they build the application because they say, hey, I need something that does X, but not about, hey, now that we've done this, how do we secure it? How do we make sure that data isn't flowing in and out, etc.
Yeah, it's amazing what we have done with AI, and I say we, not somebody who has built any of these vibe coding platforms, but like we as a society, the stuff that we have done to democratize code, right? One of our MSP partners sent us a vibe coded app that his daughter had done, and she's middle school, high school age daughter, and she's vibe coded this whole app to do clean music generation. So it's basically Suno, but for kids, where it's going to be the lyrics are guaranteed to be clean. And she was able to vibe code it in a week to do some really cool stuff. Now, as I was talking to our MSP partner about this, he said, this is, the challenge that we ran into is exactly some of those security concerns, right? Where it's, hey, the authentication system is garbage. And so people are just authenticating all willy-nilly, which then means that anybody can jump in and start using the AI tokens and credits that she's set aside for this. And so now all of a sudden her costs start to skyrocket because the security wasn't there. And so he's having to go in and help her actually add in those layers of security, right? And so we don't think about the security, or we think about security more than just the how do we protect the data that we have. It's how do we protect our tokens and our costs and all these other things, right? We're introducing security concerns, and I say that very loosely here, right? Because these are the same security concerns we've always had from a software standpoint. But because we've democratized the process of developing so considerably, that literally anybody can do this. We've done it in a way that anybody doesn't necessarily understand all of it and can't even think through all of the risks that they are introducing to themselves and how they're actually potentially harming themselves by not putting in these security best practices. And they don't even know what the security best practices are. And so I think it's incumbent on those of us who are in the industry and understand this stuff to be able to start having those conversations and talk about risk and ask the questions of like, hey, what happens if somebody gains access? Like, it's great that you're letting Adam in to create free music, but what happens when Adam generates 4,000 songs? Oh, if Adam creates 4,000 songs, now we've got a big problem because all of a sudden, like, I've only budgeted for 100 songs per person or 100 songs total. Now all of a sudden my costs have gone through the roof. All right, so how do I put in rate limiting and token thresholds for an individual so that I've made my life easier and I'm not burning all of my budget on Adam being the greedy consumer, right? Not that Adam's greedy. I've met Adam. I know he's not. Right? I just like
Well, I don't know. We're all entrepreneurs here. But yeah, the ease of use is always going to override security, right? People mean well. Some of the worst breaches I have seen in my career work, like companies folded because they meant well, but they forgot something like two-factor security. And now their entire AWS environment is hijacked and they have no out-of-band backups. These things happen. They were working really hard. They were building a great product that everybody loved. They just missed some things. And so how do you protect yourself? And honestly, when we go back to like the code red days, the web 2.0 and all the breaches we saw there, the hijackings, the tainting of data, SQL injection, all these things that were happening left and right. Honestly, there's one simple solution that we all know. How do you protect yourself against the unknowable? And it's easy. Tape backups offline. I mean, there's no hacking, right? You can't hack the air. Well, okay, that's another topic for another day. I see the actually. So, but what I mean is like we can follow some best practices. So knowing that our clients are vibe coding, knowing that they're okay, now that this has hit prod and you're relying on this for some things, okay, now we need to figure out what does an offline backup look like? What does an out of band backup look like? And you as an IT professional can name 100 different ways to do this. And you have to decide what does that look like. So like say I'm vibe coding in Replit. What's great about Replit is it's constantly making backups and checkpoints. But if somebody were to hack Replit, they could easily go in. They're all in one system. So now I've got to think, okay, how do I protect my code and these environments? Where's my backup? Where's my failback? And so these are all old conversations. In fact, even NIST has backup strategies for offsite, for cold site, for hot site. It's been around so long. We just have to apply the same principles, just in a new way now. And you still have to say, hey, I built this cool music app. Okay, now let's go and see if we can't find somebody who can break it.
So it's funny you say that. the whole these processes, that has been around forever. I have noticed a trend where as soon as AI is let into something, all, hey, we have a process for this, for when a junior person does this, all of it goes out the window, right? And all of a sudden it's like, but it's AI, it's fine. It's like, no, it's not. And so, you know, I've been Jared told me a story that was fascinating to me. He had gone to some talk. There was an expert panel of developers, and they were talking. One of the questions was, how can you tell that the code that AI spits out is good code? And all of them was like, well, there's no really good way to do that. And Jared's just sitting there and he's like, code reviews. We have a process for this. Like, you guys seen here, right? Like, for these experts, like, that has gone completely out the window of like, hey, it's AI. Like, we don't have a process for this. And so, and I keep seeing that even in businesses. As soon as AI enters the conversation, the process they already had to make sure people didn't make mistakes for some reason goes out the window. And it really shouldn't. The other piece, Adam, is from a security, I can't get my compliance hat off me, but people vibe coding apps where people are going to be putting PHI data in there, right? Hey, where's the BAA with Replit or with whatever, right? Like, where is all of that going? Like, how are you protecting your data as it's a system that you built is processing it? And whether it's PII because it's customer data or PHI or God forbid CUI, but like, how do you make sure that the system is protecting the data in process? And I've seen, again, not vibe coding necessarily, but I've seen people take PHI documents, upload them to ChatGPT and say, hey, I need to send an email for this. What?
Yep.
And a lot of that is already answered, right? We've already answered this question. It's almost like you could do security awareness training that will
Around
let people know,
AI.
like, hey, by the way, if you need to use an AI to do PHI, please use Copilot over here. If you do
Paid
not, that is
Copilot, not free Copilot, because
correct.
free Copilot,
Over here. Give them the direct spot to go to, because there are some situations where it's preferred. And the employee just wants to do their job. They know they can make this really great experience for their patient or for their client if they could just use an AI to help them create this document, create this protocol, create this like breakdown. Just show them the safe way to do it. So if we only had an existing system for educating people on safe ways to do things, we just got to get ahead of it. This
Yeah.
is
Well,
how security works. It's almost like if you were to review with your clients on a quarterly or a monthly basis, you could almost educate them and say, "Hey, look, we could come in and do security awareness training for your people so that you make sure that you're not leaking all of your information, your private information out to the cloud. Do you want us to do that? You can come in and have these conversations, but you'd have to be listening to your customer to do that."
that's overrated.
you're spot on. But it goes beyond that, right? We have spent 20 years overcoming the security as the Department of No to a point where security is becoming the department that enables the business to operate securely and with lower risk. And we've spent 20 years, and we've thrown all of that out all of a sudden, where security is becoming back to the Department of No, where it's no, you can't use that. No, you can't use that. We need to get back to the space where, as security professionals, we are talking about this how do we, our clients, our internal users, they are going to be using AI. They are going to be using these tools. How do we help them do that in the lowest risk way possible, right? To your point, can we get them the paid Copilot license? Can we get them the version of OpenAI or Perplexity or Gemini, or you pick your Claude, that has a data processing agreement that allows us to do the things that we want them to be able to do? Can we bring things in-house? Can we use AWS Bedrock or Azure AI Enclave, right? Can we do the things that are going to help our clients be and our users be secure in the way that they're using this, right? How long did we go with these stupid authenticator apps that force somebody to have to plug in a code from their phone into, right? We finally have gotten better with passkeys and things like that, and are enabling smarter, better decisions that provide a seamless flow so that we can become the department that enables business to move faster, more securely. And we've like gone back to the dark ages when it comes to it's, oh no, it's AI. We can't do anything. Everybody's hands off. Don't do that. No, stop being the Department of No. Find ways to enable your clients, your users to do the things that they are going to do, regardless of whether you want them to or not, right? Put the guardrails in place so they can do it safely and securely, and give them the tools that allow them to be successful, because they're going to be doing it whether you want them to be or not. Help them make the right decision.
Yeah.
Soapbox over, rant over.
No, no, it's perfect. Like the Department of No, or you're making things so restrictive. Like when what we learned back in 2007, this has been almost 20 years ago, is that when we made password policies too restrictive, people just wrote them down on notepads, which reduced security. It was terrible. So then we taught people to use passphrases. We taught them to do different things. People find a way to do it the easy way. People want to vibe code. People want to build applications. They're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I can make the company so much money if I could just do this. Like, wait, there's a safe way to do this. There's a good way to do this, and there's a very wrong way to do this. And so let's talk it through from a technology standpoint and from a security standpoint, but make it easy for them. Like, oh, you discovered that you can use Perplexity to build documents. That's really cool. Have you used Sonnet? Anything Sonnet based like Claude? It's way better. And if you pay for the pro version, you can actually have it secured, and you can have a company version where you can share documents, and there's all these things you can do. Do you want us to show you how to do that and help you build that system? That way, when your employees need to build a document, they can just use Sonnet, or they can use Copilot, or whatever system is going to keep them secure and safe, and as well as productive. But you got to give them the easy path. Don't be the department of, AI is just dumb, it's blah, 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 it's not ready, blah, blah, blah. No. Okay, what are your concerns here? Let's hear them out. What are you trying to accomplish? And let's find the right tool. Because in 2026, the AI sprawl is going to be insane. And you have to decide, are you able to guide your clients through this forest? Or are they going to be another victim, kind of like back in the Web 2.0 days, of their employees creating massive security holes that are going to get you sued, they're going to put you under, or it's going to destroy your data stream? You have
So,
to look at these things, and you have to be willing to listen to your client and what they're trying to do.
so let me ask you guys this. You guys have done a bunch more development than I have. So, as an IT guy, I've always looked at why build a software versus using off-the-shelf software that's available, right? So how do you, and I've always recommended, if there's software available that'll meet your needs, use that. That way you don't have to maintain it. You don't have to ABC. How do you reconcile that thought process with the vibe coding phenomenon, if you will?
So the same equation applies. Now, the cost of development has gone way down, right? But it's a similar equation that you're dealing with, right? It's how much is it going to cost me to build it and maintain it versus how much is it going to cost me to buy it? And if the answer is like, I'll pick on my friends over at Salesforce because they have arguably the best CRM software out there, but it's also hands down the most expensive, right? If you're trying, if like, let's assume that HubSpot and Zoho and all of the Salesforce CRM competitors don't exist today, and your only option is the stupid expensive Salesforce, or try to build it yourself. And it's like, well, let me think about all the things that would go into building Salesforce by myself. 5 years ago, that equation was a no-brainer. Even with Salesforce being as expensive as it was still cheaper for you to buy their software than it was to try to build yourself. The world today is different. And so, if you're talking about a $10 a month license for something that is like easily commercially available and checks all your boxes, it's probably better for you to go out and buy it. If you're talking about something that's $10,000 a month and maybe gets you 80% of the way there, you might be better off building the custom thing. And so the math is the same. The question is, what is the cost of development? That cost of development has gone way down, with the asterisk that now you still have to think about how do you secure it and
So
maintain it and all those things, right? And so
yeah.
again, if you've done this before, that those conversations become a lot easier. If you've never done it before, Adam has this new crash course in AI development. He's offering it for the low price of $99 a month. No, I'm just kidding.
The as you said, the math is still the same. The equation is still the same. The names of the competitors, the names of the objects are different, right? We remember back around the early 2000s. I keep bringing up Web 2.0 because we had the exact same problems. The barrier to entry got lowered with SQL. You no longer needed Oracle. You didn't need a VAX system. You didn't need these large mainframes. You could bring in a cheap old backend and slap together a Fedora box running Apache, and you could build your own farm. Now, why did everyone still buy Red Hat when they could have had Fedora for free? Why did people host their web applications in the cloud when they could have hosted for pennies internally? There are really good reasons to host on site. There's really good reasons to build your own Apache farm, and they are great ones. However, what we learned was that having an on site SQL server serving up Web 2.0 content was just a mess when it came to security because you did not have the infrastructure to monitor this thing properly 24/7. And I had a lot of security guys, even today, will tell me, well, on-prem is more secure. Like, it depends. Like, right? Most of the time, you think it's more secure because you can't see the breaches happening. There's no one, like, if I go out to AWS and I host a server out there, and then the underlying architecture to AWS gets owned, they have an obligation to tell their shareholders and the people, we got owned. Here's what we did about it. Here's the cleanup process. Now, my code is still my problem, but now I can slap on another security principle on top of that. Or I can have somebody host for me who's going to watch the security for me. There's all these things I get. I offload and make it somebody else's responsibility. Transferring risk and transferring responsibility is still a viable thing. So today, yes, you could vibe code your own app internally instead of using QuickBooks. You could vibe code your own CRM. However, now somebody's on the hook for this. You have to monitor the security for it. You are responsible for keeping the code up to date, and you might fall way behind as you've got this custom in-house app that is kind of like not observing best practices. You haven't hired a full-time employee to do this. Well, now you hire a full-time employee to do it because you're very reliant on it. Now you're spending more than you would on a Salesforce or a HubSpot or a Peachtree or QuickBooks. And now you're stuck with it because your business is reliant on this thing versus outsourcing, but versus transferring risk. It's the same equation we had before. It's just a new tool.
That's exactly it, right? And we have to understand our software bill of materials. We still, right? And I'll give you a good example. I had a friend call me, this is maybe 6 months ago, saying, hey, I vibe coded this app. It's 90% of the way there. Every time I get feature A to work, feature B breaks. I get feature B to work and feature A breaks. I just need a developer who can like get both of those things to work and get me across the finish line. And I said, okay, well, happy to introduce you to a developer. What language is it written in? Oh, I don't know. Where's it hosted? I don't know. What's the backend? I don't know. Right? Could not answer any of these questions because they had vibe coded their way through the whole thing, which is, again, it's great that they were able to get 90% of the way there, but had no idea what language it was even written in to be able to understand what the software bill of materials was, whether they were using out of date versions of packages or things like that. And so that, like the whole maintenance and long-term production viability of this vibe coded app was basically out the window. And now he and I were able to quickly figure out, like walk through together and figure out what language was written in. I got him a developer, got across the finish line. But again, to your point, like code rot is real. Things are going to degrade over time because best practices change. The libraries that we're using are going to be like, we're going to find vulnerabilities in all those third-party libraries that we're using. And we need to be able to understand what that bill of materials looks like. So when those vulnerabilities happen, we know that we're using an unpatched version that we need to go and patch very quickly. All of these different things are relevant and important and part of the equation. The math is the same. It's just right. So I've been on my soapbox for way too long here.
Oh, no, you're good. And this is a great way to close out this conversation because how is security being affected by vibe coding? How is security being affected by AI inside companies? And what can we do about it? And I think the overwhelming way to wrap this up, and the obvious thing is try to remember that we've already solved these problems. It's the same equation. It's just a new product. We have this, we are maturing as an industry. We've seen this before. Just because it's called vibe coding now, it's no different than the threat of Web 2.0, where we had people building SQL databases that had no business building a SQL database because they could just unwrap it and throw it into a box. And so You could build a WordPress site and just snap tools in. These are not new problems, people. They just have new names. Now, there is going to be some things that are going to happen that we have no idea what they are, but you still have solutions. You have out of band backups for unknown attack vectors. You have things like, encryption. You have privacy. All these same principles still apply. Yes, you're going to have data leakage. You're going to have people sending data out. You can do DLP, and that is a process that you can go through, and it's hard. But it still applies to this vibe coding. It still applies to ChatGPT. It still applies to everything. You just have to now add in this new attack surface to what you already know and talk to your clients about this stuff. Communication is key here. Any final thoughts, Mike or Jared?
I think that was a perfect closeout.
All right, everyone. I thank you guys both for coming on today. And if you have anything you need to talk to about security wise, don't talk to me, please. Reach out to Blacksmith InfoSec. They're way more knowledgeable. My knowledge is like 15 years old in this industry. And so you need to talk to people in this evolving world. Your clients need to know that this is happening, whether they like it or not. If they're not leading the forefront, their employees are doing it. So they've got to be on top of this. Get with a partner that's going to help you with compliance. Get with a partner who understands this stuff. And so talk to Blacksmith, talk to them about how you can present security to your clients and have better conversations around compliance and initiatives there. Thank you both for coming on, and maybe we'll have you on again. Man, we're almost the next year. So see you later.
Sounds good. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate you.